morning, everyone, and thank you very much for attending the Open Forum 2015 here at Computer History Museum. So, today's session is for Digital Living Room, and my name is Osaf Masood, and I'm really honored to announce our moderator for today, Imran Maskatia, who is the founder of Redbox Instant, and the moderator for today, of course, and our esteemed panelist, Margaret Schmidt, she's the Chief Design Officer for TiVo, and Mr. Ahmed Shah, who has formerly been with Rovi Corporation, and he was an executive with Rovi Corporation. So please put your hands together for our panelists and the moderator, Ahmed.
All right, thank you all for coming. I think it's going to be a very interesting, very exciting session, one that I'm very personally interested in. So I'm very, very honored to be hosting it. Let me tell you a bit about our panelists. So Ahmed Shah is a technology veteran. You can read the full bio on the website. He's been with Cisco, he's been with Motorola, been with Rovi, and he got his electrical engineering and computer science degree from MIT, and has served in a variety of different capacities in these roles, from business to strategy to marketing. Margaret Schmidt is TiVo's Chief Design Officer and Vice President of Design and Engineering. She's responsible for all of the domestic and international TiVo products and their look and feel, their design, the user experience. And she's got a bachelor's in electrical engineering and computer science from UC Berkeley, so very similar technical backgrounds. She's also won an Emmy Award, a 2006 Emmy Award for Outstanding Achievement in Interactive Television, and has been named one of the most powerful women in cable. She's been with TiVo since 2001, so she knows all the ins and outs of TiVo and can answer all your questions about it. So she also tweets at TiVo Design. Follow her. So our topic today is about the digital living room. It's about what's going to happen next in the room where we spend most of our time. Average Americans spend between 4 and 5 hours a day watching television. And while digital mobile usage and mobile video usage is skyrocketing, that's on top of the TV usage that we've seen. We haven't seen a decline in video watching on TV. People are just watching more video. If you look at the trends in the video industry, it's really stark. Traditionally, video has been delivered over broadcast antenna and cable, and it's taken a long time for each of those new technologies to come, most recently satellite and then telco IPTV. But now video delivery is coming not just to TVs, but to other devices in the home. And it's causing a change and shift in user behaviors and user patterns as well. Content used to come mostly from Hollywood, but now people are watching YouTube and watching other content creators from all around the world. Just if you've been outside, you've probably gotten a coupon, an ad for Jadu TV, a TV service that many people here are familiar with. And so content is coming from everywhere and going to everywhere, and yet people still feel the need to create social events around their television, right? When a new episode of Game of Thrones or Silicon Valley or some of these other shows come out, people don't want to hear too much about it because they want to make sure they watch it with everyone else, with all of their friends. And so there's curious and interesting behaviors with TV and video, and it's a large part of our lives. So we'll be talking with our panelists about that and how we move forward. Before we get to questions, I'd invite Margaret and Ahmed to talk a little bit about their thoughts for what's coming next in the digital living room.
Okay, I'll start. Thank you. So at the end of the day, it is all about the content, right? What you want to watch. And TV is a very emotional commitment and experience. A movie might be, 2 hours you've wasted or not. when you think about your connection with a TV show, you're going to spend an hour a week for 20 weeks every year, or you're going to binge it and do it in shorter time. And then, of course, sports has its own passion associated with it. So what users have is this connection to content, and how providers are differentiating themselves is going to be on the content, right? So you see Netflix with their original programming, House of Cards. You see Amazon doing it with Transparent or Alpha House, right? You subscribe to HBO because you want to watch Game of Thrones. And so, in this world where people want to disrupt TV, it's going to be this balance for consumers between what are the shows I care about and how much am I willing to pay for them, and where do I have to go to watch them? When at the end of the day, what they want is simplicity, right? This idea that I have to switch devices to watch from one provider, use different services and different devices is the frustrating piece. And so, that's why TiVo's approach is we'll take all of that content, put it on one device, and we know that if you want to watch Game of Thrones, that, season 1 and season 2 you can buy from Amazon or Vudu, and we make that easy. And season 3 you can get from your VOD provider, and season 5 is airing live, and we can record that. So it's that piece, and then it's not, of course, just about the living room. It's about all the other places you want to watch that content, right? It's streaming it into the other rooms in the house, or taking it with you when you travel. And then what you need as a user is a smart system that knows that you've watched season 5, episode 7 in the living room, and now you're traveling and you want to watch season 5, episode 8. So it's the smart piece, it's the simplicity piece. And then while I'm head of design for TiVo, at the end of the day, it's not about the user interface, it's about the content, right? So either the user interface is helpful in getting to what you want, or it's cumbersome. And so focusing on that, it's not really about, it's about getting them through it, right? And getting them onto the content. So that's kind of our perspective. Lots of content choices, consumers will make a cost content balance.
Great.
Yeah, so can I ask you a question? How many of you are able to ads? Quite a few. TV as we know it is dead. Long live TV. As we see today, the consumer behavior, how we consume television is changing. No longer do we watch TV as our parents watched. Obviously, we know how it was back then when television set. After dinner, everybody gets together and we watch the shows that we want. Clearly, that is not the case anymore. I'll give you an anecdote of how I watch TV. During the weekdays, we don't let our kids watch TV, but I still want to watch the Giants games. So how do I do that? Previously, I had no choice, but with the Comcast X1, while my kids are doing homework, I open my iPad and sneak in some Giants games. So what does that mean? That means it clearly is different from how we are going to watch TV. It's going to become more personal, and as we get more and more choices, we will see the way people find content, the way people consume content, and the way people keep track of what they have seen is going to transform. Briefly touching upon the second part of my statement, long live TV. Despite all of that, television has a long way to go before our habits change completely. I will just quote one statistic and I'll move on. Hopefully we'll cover some of that in our question and answer session. 2013 was a watershed moment in the TV space when for the first time the actual TV subscription from MVPDs went down. It went down by 250K. Wow. So up until that point, the average subscription was going up, and as plateaued in 2013, it went down. And everybody absolutely believed that when the actual number comes out, 2014 is going to go down as well. However, out of 115 million US homes, we still have 100 million subscriptions. So it has a long way to go before all of that really comes to a point where we change completely.
Great, thank you. I'm going to start with a few questions of my own, and then we'll open it up to the audience for questions. First is, and it might get a little esoteric, but how do you define TV? Like, what does the word TV mean to you? It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, as I said, and piggybacking on what I said earlier, I mean, back then, TV was the main medium for us to consume video and programming that came along with it. I think as we are moving away from that being the primary mode, it probably is better to say video consumption more than the TV watching, primarily because there are content creators on the one end, distributors in the middle, and consumers on the other end. We see a lot of live TV, over-the-top TV. So the TV as a box, as an LCD or an LED device that is connected to the cable or over the internet is changing. So it's more like the screen, the glass that conveys the content, the programming that comes to you. So I think the whole notion of what we talk about television is going to transform, especially when you move towards the demographics of 18 to 24, 18 to 32 years old. Some of them don't even want to have the TV per se. They are more glued to their iPads, phones, or laptops, which they use to consume the content.
So then to you, TV is, what is TV? Is it the glass on the wall, or is it the content?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think when you talk to my generation, for us, TV is that particular screen that conveys and then delivers the programming content which we are attached to. But I think we also realize that that is becoming more and more segmented because you can start talking about what is the second screen, the third screen experience that goes along with it. So people are starting to understand that TV is not just one-all catchphrase where we can consume all the video programming that comes in. It is more that becomes one of many mediums through which you can consume the programming. And TV brings in some things that are not necessarily available, which is the evening shows, your local channels, sometimes the sports, but there are so many other ways to get other content that you want.
So Margaret, what do you think?
I think TV is a generic term for kind of all of those things. So I would talk about the large screen, which is often a shared screen, and the small screens, which are often personal. And then I would talk about the content, about being, traditional content, the long-form dramas and comedies, compared to maybe the short-form content that might be personals or how-to or comedy or hobbies and interests and things like that. So I think television kind of means all of those things, and you just need to be specific about what you're addressing.
Emma, you touched on second screen. I've been following the second screen and the idea of, for those who don't know, second screen has traditionally referred to using your mobile or your PC or your tablet while you're watching TV, so using more than one screen at once. And while there's been a lot of talk about second screen or multi-screen experiences, I don't know that there's a lot of actual applications that I've seen that have been very popular, very well used in that realm. Have either of you seen a particular app that you really like that works well on second screen, or do you think that, what are your thoughts?
So I think there are a couple things. So there are the second screen apps that are about synchronizing to what you're watching on TV. So AMC has had their Story Sync app. I think it works with Walking Dead and Better Call Saul. And it's about polls and predictions and getting you engaged in that live viewing. But it is this, am I immersed in the drama, or am I kind of watching it but playing along more? Maybe a better example of that is something like Conan O'Brien and Team Coco, where it is not the same kind of deep engagement of a drama. It's a little more casual, and you might want to have the behind the scenes of the other interviews. I think Sci-Fi is coming out with 12 Monkeys. They have a similar kind of engagement, second screen out, but now you can watch it in a time-shifted world, right? It actually listens to the audio and syncs that up. And then, so I think there's that piece where it's coming from the content providers, and it's about trying to engage you deeper in the storyline. And the question is, do users want to be engaged deeper while they're actually watching it, or would they like to be immersed? And then there's the piece about social, and then probably Twitter is the best example of socially engaging in TV with the hashtags. And there are certain, so shows have their own hashtags. Some shows even have hashtags for the scenes, so you can comment specifically on what just happened. But then there's the tension between social viewing of TV and the spoiler problem, right? So I do watch Game of Thrones every Sunday night because actually, if it's past 6 o'clock on the East Coast, if I look at Google News, it's like Game of Thrones recap. It's like stop. So now I cannot read news. I can't even watch the episode for 3 hours, but I can't look at the news. Or even just, so working at TiVo, a lot of my friends on Facebook are at TiVo or have been at TiVo, so you would think we would be really good about not spoiling time-shifted TV. But that doesn't stop someone from posting an update that says like, oh my God, Game of Thrones, no! And you think, okay, so something big is gonna happen. Like they didn't spoil what was going to happen, but you're like, okay, so this is a dramatic episode. And then you actually spend your time watching that show going, is this the big thing? Is it about to happen? And so we don't even have those pieces, the social etiquette worked out around that. So it's interesting people are experimenting with it, but is there something that's really taken off? I don't know.
Just one thing to add to that, I think as you very well put together, there are two parts of the second screen experience. One is the one provided by the content providers themselves, in which they want people to have richer experience, more immersive experience. Sometimes they will put these extra scenes or the extra things that you may not necessarily see in TV. Or in the case of sports, you may be able to see different camera angles that may only be available through the second screen. So therefore, they want you to be fully engaged and not just be on the TV, but on the second screen. I mean, of course, they have their own ulterior motive. They want to identify who you are so that they can target you better for advertising and all of that, which is a separate discussion altogether. And then the second thing that she said, which is the auxiliary applications, like the social experience. How do you come together to watch TV? What can you get out of it? How do you jointly enjoy more than just watching TV, but more sharing things as well? I would agree with her in that the jury is still out as to how big the market is going to be, whether we want to enjoy together watching TV, but then there's time shift issue, which is I don't want to have the spoilers before I see it. So that, I don't know how it's going to pan out, but I think more and more we will have the quote-unquote second screen applications being provided by the content creators, whereby they want it to be more immersive and they want to be able to have you go to online, you know what.
So another question that I had, this conference is all about entrepreneurship. Where do you see opportunities for startups and entrepreneurs in the entertainment living room space?
Well, see, the first thing I don't recommend, I mean, so much of TV is built around access to content and kind of programmer agreements. And I'm not sure I'd advise anyone, unless your co-founders are lawyers, to get in, to do something where you think what you need are rights from the different content providers. Like, there are a lot of people in that space. So, and then I think the question is, what can you do to interact with devices that do have the content? And is there room to innovate in, wearables or other kind of connected apps where you don't have to have the content agreements, but you can interface potentially with devices that do have that. So it's kind of a little bit of an idea and a little bit of caution.
I think one area where we should consider potential opportunities is, and I touched upon that, which is the whole notion of advertising. People are still trying to figure out how to better target the consumers. And this whole notion of analytics as it applies here, especially when you go to online, is first of all, you can, to some extent, with certain anonymity, being able to identify who's watching. So with regards to that, can you create better models that can serve ads appropriately? So from the technology point of view, the ad tech is going to be important in this, how much more better we can get. I think that's going to be one area where we'll see a lot of potential innovations and potential new startups coming in.
I want to open it up at this time for audience questions. So what we'll do is, do we have a mic for the audience, or if not, then what I'll do is I can repeat the question. Okay, so we'll get a mic to you. So if you've got a question, raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you, and we'll go. Let's see. First one is right here.
Hi, my name is Bilal. You mentioned regarding television subscription going down in 2013. One comment I read was because they increased the price of the subscription. What's your take on that?
That's a broad question. I mean, I may say that the price of TV it's very difficult to pin down whether the price of TV is going up or going down. It really is very difficult, primarily because there's a lot of quote-unquote unbundling going on. I mean, you have heard stories about Verizon trying to come up with different packages. You may have heard stories about Sony through their Xbox offering these unbundled packages and trying to figure out what the pricing is. I do not believe that the subscription went down because of the pricing. I think it may be other more longer term factors, primarily at the fact that the next generation of folks coming in, they watch TV very differently. Forrester had a survey, I think 2014, for 18 to 34-year-old demographic, and overwhelmingly, 36% of them said that they do not watch enough TV to justify the price of TV subscription. I think 36% of them said that they most likely will not sign up for a subscription package. Similarly, PwC had another survey of 18 to 24-year-old folks. It was a small sample survey, but still, it said that from 2013 to 2014, the actual subscription in that group went down. So I don't think it's the price that's dictating the decline.
I think the other thing to think about is whether or not you get TV from your cable operator, you probably get your broadband internet from them. And cable has actually a very cost-efficient bundle of channels, right? If you watch a lot of TV, or not a lot of TV, but TV on a lot of different channels, you know, I want AMC to get Mad Men, and I want Game of Thrones on HBO, and I care about this show on Fox, etc. Cable is a wonderful way to get that kind of whole package. And I think the challenge, so there are people that say, I don't need those extras, I'll, cut the cord and go to antenna, but they're probably still paying for broadband. There are these services that are trying to do these other bundles, and then the question is, does the content I care about come from those? And do I have to buy actually lots of different subscriptions to get all the things I care about? Well, I need Netflix, and I need Amazon, and I need HBO. And in a world where potentially more of the content is delivered over IP, because you do have Netflix and Amazon and maybe one of these other services, what does our cable internet bill look like, right? Are we going to move like cell phones did, where essentially I had free, unlimited bandwidth, and now most plans are kind of metered or capped at some way, right? What does that cable subscription look like? Or the cable broadband subscription, what is, do I have caps on that, and is that going to impact my ability to get TV? Because the way they deliver channels today, very efficient.
Next question. In the front.
You did mention advertisement a couple of times. Let's go there. Free TV is pretty much at its last breath, because I don't watch any advertisement. I have a thumb. You know how to bypass that. I record a program and I bypass all the ads. So how does the advertising model look like for the free TV going forward?
Well, so I think there's an interesting trend. So you have a DVR today, and the DVR gives you, complete control, right? You can record any show, you can keep it as long as you want, you can watch it and fast forward to the parts you want. You will see a transition in the industry as some cable operators will look at a network DVR, where in fact it's recorded in their head end, it's delivered over your IP connection, which saves them money in terms of the boxes they put, the capital expense of the boxes they put in the house. But you as a consumer will probably lose some of your control and your rights, because the cable operator has programmer agreements, and the programmer agreements may dictate what they can do with fast forwarding, with ads and streaming and kind of all of those pieces. And so it will be interesting to see if that becomes a way that advertising is protected, right? Now all of a sudden we can't fast forward because the only way you get this content is by streaming it from your cable operator, and you kind of lose some of that control. So I think that's interesting.
Two comments to that. I think, while I agree with what she said, there are a couple of other things that are happening. First of all, as it is now, people are starting to recognize that this is happening. So as such, the overall ad spend is skyrocketing on digital. and going down a little bit because people are questioning how effective that is for precisely that reason. To counter that, this is what service providers are starting to do, because even Comcast is going to do an NPVR, so the DVR doesn't necessarily sit, or the programming doesn't necessarily sit on my box. When I watch the DVR, I cannot fast forward, so I may be forced to watch that. That's the first thing that's going to happen. The second thing, which is more relevant to this group, is innovation. Once again, we are very used to having these advertisements that are very 30-second ads that are really focused on a certain media. It will change. We may have shorter ads, 5-second, 10-second ads. So people will be forced to change the way the ads are presented to make it more palatable, but still be able to have some impact and message. I think some of that is already happening, being pioneered by the Facebook or Snapchat, maybe coming along with that as well. So I think it's going to be a two-way thing, which is on the one hand, the service providers trying to find ways to force you to watch ads, which is not optimal. I mean, we already know that people don't really like being forced to do things. Second thing is make it more palatable, more interesting, and small, bite-sized.
Great. Other questions in the front?
Yeah, I have a question for yourself and more of the team strategy. I'm very intrigued that being the original DVR, you guys have had to do some pivots. And I think, broadly speaking, for entrepreneurs in the room, who might be buying in certain ways, could be beyond digital. How do you manage that? And what did you observe as an exec in the room as TiVo enters the data?
Yeah, so I think TiVo has had this interesting evolution of, being a TV disruptor. The ads would throw the network executive out of the room. He doesn't control your schedule, you do, and fast forwarding through ads. But now you see us partner with cable operators and with advertising. So from the very beginning, we've had, the advertising solutions. Sure, you can fast forward through ads, but you can enhance them and go on to that, long form movie trailer or information about the car. So if it's something that's relevant to you, we want to empower that. And then on the cable side, right? Originally, we didn't work with cable operators. Now that's a huge part of where our business comes from, both domestically and internationally. They deploy the TiVo platform. And I think we have a couple of unique aspects there. One, because we still have a retail product and we're out there supporting it, talking to customers and innovating in that space. We know what it's like to have the product out there, so the cable operators know they have that we have a strong foundation in that. And we can innovate in that space. And then, and actually they come to us in many ways for that leadership. So part of it is staying both relevant with what consumers want, and then being able to take that to cable operators who want to be more loved by their consumers. And in fact are, when they deploy TiVo, have a much better experience than they do with some of the other options. And they see it drive their business, the things they care about, right? Reducing churn, more use of VOD, higher use of subscription and premium channels. And I think actually one of the big breakthroughs for kind of a combination of cable was, in the beginning, it was really, we're against Netflix. If I'm a cable operator, Netflix can do their thing, I have VOD, I want my cable customer to pay me and enjoy my VOD. And then realizing that, wow, a lot of their customers have Netflix, and in fact are tuning away from the cable box to go watch Netflix on either their smart TV, their connected Blu-ray player, their Roku, whatever it is. And what we did for them over the last year or so is actually bring Netflix integrated into a cable DVR. And so, because if customers are not tuning away, the more they tune away, the more they think, do I even need my cable subscription? I'm spending all this time watching Netflix. When it's integrated, as a user, you're saying it's so effortless, I can get all of the content I want. Some of that content is Netflix. My cable operator installed this box for me in my home. I love it. So it's making sure that we help bring that love of that customers have for the product to benefit the cable operators. Yes.
You can probably hear me. So I'm interested in kind of going beyond content to kind of the interactive home, right, and home control. Is that an area of strategy investigation that you're pursuing? And is the living room wall the entry into my home?
I can go first. I think coming from Rovi, which originally started off, before that it was something different, but started off as the programming guide, the grid that you see, and then we evolved over time, and then realized that that's not the only thing how people are going to navigate the live TV or the bound TV, linear TV as we call it. And then all these new options came in and realized that the user interface that the consumers use to interact is going to evolve and going to change. And I know we are seeing some of that in our evolution as well, and some of the things that are being currently actively explored is how do you interact with television? And it's not just about the grid and going up and down, back and forth, and you already see the advancements in user interface. But once again, going beyond that, how can you use voice, gestures, to be able to navigate? And that's the first step into what may become the broader living room experience, and then people talk about Internet of Things, people talk about the whole living room experience. I won't go there just yet, but I think for us the evolution is how can we improve the experience, and towards that we are very actively playing around with how voice can play a role in search, recommendation, and personalization. I think that's a big topic for us as to how we can improve that experience, and there's a lot of that going on. And I think in the coming years you will see, not just from Rovi but also from all of the other guys, what you can do to make that search experience really easy. Because I think the key thing here is that the content is going to come from different places, and actually, as Mark just said, it's trying to create that integrated experience, but at the same time being able for consumers to search where that comes from, but not necessarily knowing where it comes from. Like, I just want to sit down and say, what's on TV? Where is my next Game of Thrones? And then what is that movie? And the movie may come from the VOD, it may come from Netflix, it may come from some third party from the web. But the search, I think, is going to be an important aspect of it, and that becomes part of the user interface.
And on the connected home side, I would say that clearly the TV screen is a big piece of that, and for our cable partners, connected home, especially security, is important to them. So I think you need to think about what each device in the home does best, right? So a cable set-top box is connected to it's often the broadband connection because there can be a cable modem inside, you've got the biggest screen, so what's best done in that world? And then how should it relate to the other items in the connected home? So again, security being a great example, you want to see your security cameras on the screen TV. So I think it's a very interesting space. Without saying too much, I do think the living room device has an important role to play.
Yeah, and I think that going even beyond search, there's kind of the two-way, right? There's the element of control, right? So you're engaging a service, you know, you can engage Uber, you can tell your home to adjust the controls, you know, it's beyond monitoring to actually control. And so then an audio voice interface in conjunction with a video interface, I think, is critical.
Okay, great. We've been going here a lot. Any questions on this side? No? All right. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question
There's
about...
a mic behind you.
Yeah, I have a question about fragmentation into national markets. I mean, the internet is supposed to bring everybody closer together, and yet, I've kind of made the opposite experience where if I try to stream videos in other languages from other countries, that often they won't, it's not allowed because of licensing problems, or portions of it will be blacked out. And even just beyond video, even looking at e-books, 10 years ago, if I would order a book from Amazon, a month later it would come through customs and I could read it. But now if I try to buy the same e-book, they won't sell it to me because of the country that I'm in. So I mean, is that a temporary phase, or is this going to be consolidated so that we can really all share content throughout the world, or are we really just stuck in national markets?
Content rights and the fragmentation of content rights, I think, is the biggest barrier right now to creating a great customer experience, right? Because you have all of these different rules. Some channels or some shows or some channels make things available on VOD, and some don't, and save it up for Netflix. And just as a consumer, you don't know what's available to you. So I don't know that that's going to be solved, right? I don't know how that exactly. It's an interesting kind of legal challenge. can we agree on a shared framework that lets innovation happen for consumers? Otherwise, it is a lot of working around to accommodate the rights as they're held in different places.
Yes, okay.
So over the last 10 years or so, we've seen a lot of evolution in TV, both in terms of technology as well as in content. It is giving us the real-time input aspects of a high-definition video on demand. So over the next 10 years, what's the next wave? What's the new technology or content or something that's going to be coming in? Is it virtual reality? Is it more real-time interaction? What is that next wave?
Well, I think you have some that are underway, like 4K, right? More beautiful TV. I think that will come first, broadband delivered, not necessarily over the cable infrastructure. But even from cable companies, it can be IP delivered. I think virtual reality is potentially very interesting. I mean, it's this, how TV still is a shared experience, right? You're often watching with someone else. And how do you still create, and that's part of what makes it cool, right? That you watch this and can talk about it with someone else. And so how do we use technology not to completely separate us and we're all watching different shows at different times, but how do we still create that shared piece? So I think 4K is interesting. I think solving the shared, even if we're not together, piece, so that we can talk about it, and it's not that, you know, Netflix releases a new season of House of Cards and no one can talk about it because you're on episode 2 and I'm on episode 4 and all of that. And just content everywhere you want it, right? The IP delivery of content wherever you are, whichever screen.
The way I look at the content, I think there are 3 pieces today. One is live sports. Second is the drama, the movies, and the third is the regular programming every night, so news and such. Fundamentally, I think that may or may not necessarily change. The technology may evolve in how we consume it. So part of that is the high def, part of that is being streamed over broadband. So that may evolve. And the other part is the experience is going to be immersive. Are we going to have something like Oculus in which you can get engaged and involved? But I think at the end of the day, the TV as we see it may change in how we consume it. The content may be the important piece that may still be the constant in how we get it, what we get it. We may be looking for other areas like games might get more interactive and they would make it the interactivity part more.
Okay, great. We've got a few more questions. Yes, in the back.
To kind of go back to the interactive technologies, I think we've seen the Xbox Connect, the PlayStation Move, really sticking the experiences right there. Additionally, Samsung TVs, there's a lot of, like you said, the voice interaction. What we've seen is a lot of data that's collected and potentially transmitted to third-party marketers. So how do you see consumers balancing privacy versus technology with this upgraded living room and entertainment centers?
That is a challenge that we have to contend with on an ongoing basis. And you're absolutely right, there's a lot of data that gets collected, and with this whole notion of the second screen experience and smarter set-top boxes, even more of that data will get collected. I think there's a lot of discussion and talk going on what can be done with it, and that's what I was referring to earlier on, which is that there are opportunities around the analytics, around how you can better predict what someone is watching without invading their privacy, and what you can do with it to serve better ads that are more specific to their needs, but at the same time without turning them off around whether they want it or not. I think there are a lot of good things that can come out of it, which is sometimes I do want to know what I might be interested in. So if I am advertised properly, I might be beneficial to me, but at the same time, there's always going to be a struggle of how far out can we go before invading people's privacy. And this issue I don't know the answer to it today. I think we will have this ongoing discussion on how to address that.
I think it's also the positive side of it. we've long had a business in the anonymized kind of second-by-second data on both TV shows and commercials, and can say like, these TV shows actually are, you know, very well watched even in these specific areas compared with, you know, something Nielsen might do on kind of a minute-by-minute basis, or with ads, being able to know that this creative did really well in this time slot or on these shows, and that consumers engaged with it. I mean, that hopefully gets us, you know, better TV shows, better ads for those pieces. So, you know, I think it's a balance, and I think it's important that you're using anonymized data when you're doing those kinds of pieces, and really think about it for, are you benefiting the end consumer, right? How can we use data to create a better experience for them?
Great. And for our last question, I'm going to take the moderator's prerogative and ask something that's a little bit different from the topic. Margaret, as women in Silicon Valley, there aren't a lot of women executives. Ahmed, there's not a lot of minority executives. Both of you have achieved a lot so far in your career, and I'm sure there's much more to go. But what advice would you give to aspiring leaders in Silicon Valley from a diverse background?
Sure, and I actually talk a lot about women in technology, and yes, that you're often the only one in the room. But if I were to pick one thing to talk about, it would be confidence. So when you look at a group, the people who are most admired or most listened to are not necessarily the most knowledgeable or the most capable, they're the most self-assured. And a difference between men and women is that women tend to underestimate their abilities, men tend to overestimate their abilities, but don't perform any different, right? And when you underestimate your abilities and you don't feel confident, you don't try for things, you don't put yourself up for that project, that promotion. And so working with women to say, have that confidence, you are just as good, speak up, your diverse opinion in the group is what makes the group better, right? You want a group that's all the same if you're trying to do something that's very mechanical and you don't know how to do it. And if you're trying to innovate, if you're trying to lead a company, you need diverse perspectives so that you are considering kind of all of your options. So confidence.
I think if you are in the valley, you have a little bit more challenge if you're a woman, but I think for someone like myself, nothing different than you need to do other than the fact that you just want to make sure that you are focused on what needs to get done, and participate in the conversations and be part of the overall management team, and make sure that you can add value.
Great. Well, thank you both. We've got our time wrapped up for this panel, but I'm sure Ahmed and Margaret will be around for a few minutes if you've got more questions. Great. Thank you all.